first got into podcasting, I had no idea what I was doing. All I had was an idea, and the crew that I had, when we had our meetings, we would discuss, what would be a trending topic, and because we were new, we were babies and novice level, podcasters. We kind of just went with a living room type setting. I wanted my guests to feel like it was just like a barbecue in the backyard or a barber shop, and we were just gonna fire off a few topics. And of course, with social media, you upload videos, and you upload them because your intent is to get it to go viral. The intent is to get the likes, to increase, and to get the views to increase, to bring more attention to your brand. That's always the goal of, in my understanding of anyone who's into social media. The goal is to bring attention to your brand so you can grow and expand. So yes, I had no idea what topics would be hot topics or topics that wasn't so popular. But what ended up happening was ended up landing into this arena of relationships, and it was interesting in the beginning because my wife is very open. We can talk about things. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on is communication. Nonetheless, the freedom of talking about relationships also opens you up for the freedom of experiencing them and just living in the reality of them. And as I began to really dive really deep into, the fundamentals, it transpires and it definitely expands. And these ideas, they unpack themselves on its own. It's just like a college course. If podcasting was a college course and you have all your requirements, your prerequisites, and then you have, what the degree-oriented track would be, podcasting is a topic-oriented endeavor as well. You have to choose that topic that resonates well. And again, relationships seem to have been the one that I landed on. But again, if this was a college campus and I chose relationship by this time, I would probably investigate changing my course. And I say that because, again, when you begin studying a thing, that thing, somehow the universe works, it unpacks itself. And you realize exactly how serious relationships can be, exactly how serious relationships are. And, there are so many different layers to relationships. You see the failures, you see the successful ones, you see the ones who were successful for a very long time and then failed at the very last mile. You see the ones that started off like, no way, it's a shotgun marriage, and they end up lasting for years. And then you see, I've seen the promiscuous woman get married to a really good man and they live happily ever after. Then I've seen the promiscuous woman get married to a good man and she does her thing in promiscuity. I've seen good men get done dirty. I've seen bad men get done well. I mean, there's a family court system that unpacks itself. There's federal and criminal. All these things begin to unpack themselves when you start studying relationships, and not just amongst men and women, but relationships between men and men, women and women, father and son, son and daughters, siblings, cousins. Again, they began to just unpack themselves. And honestly, I would love to change my major because it's the dark side of the relationship that really becomes very scary. The dark side of relationships they're always the ones that, for me, have driven me into deep prayer and heavy meditation. Having my experiences as well, having my faults and having my victories, having successful relationships where we've been deeply in love, having secret relationships where it really shouldn't be happening like this. There's a number of experiences that I've had, and these things considering changing my major. I would really like to go into podcasting to discuss other things. I find myself constantly being bombarded with the thoughts, constantly seeing things take place, and constantly being involved, behind the scenes and talking and understanding and hearing certain words. There's even when I want to try to just take a break from it, because relationships happen everywhere continuously. It's a Manchurian effect. You just hear it constantly, and certain words just pull you right back into the arena. So even if I want to just take a break and just not think about, men, women, the dynamics of the culture of man versus the individual, and the dynamics of the culture of women versus the individual, who controls sex, who controls relationships, these things, they can be very exhausting, extremely exhausting. I find myself at many house parties and gatherings, and it always converges down to relationships. Men and women just seem to have to be engaged with one another to choose a side. Well, men do this better and women do this better. These things are almost by osmosis. They don't even really need to be discussed. But the fact that they are being discussed, when I go into these open social settings, it just lets me know there's a lack of parenting. Because parents, our responsibility is to convey to our children, what a man is and what a woman is. It's our duty as men to, bring order to our homes and convey to our children and communicate to them, irrespective of what the Department of Education says and the Chancellor, what they determine. Our responsibility as parents is to communicate to our children and those children around us the tradition that push a society forward, not one that tears it down. The question, what is a woman? That's a lack of fathers in the house. Anyone who's in social media posing that question and looking for a serious answer, and you want to be taken serious? No, you are just communicating to me. You didn't have a father in your life, and if you did, he was very irresponsible with how he handled the information that flowed through his home. Because even if he was a workaholic, he's married to your mother, and your mother's responsibility is to uphold the standards of your father's teachings. Help him and communicate to him the conditions of the home when he's out working. This is how I was raised. Whenever I screwed up in school or anywhere in the neighborhood with parents or with other neighbors, my parents would, my mom would communicate to my dad that he did X, Y, Z, and the amount of terror that was in my heart, knowing that my father's going to come home and I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to deal with this. My mom, she had her words, she screamed and she made me pop me, but when dad comes home, he's going to set the standard, and with me as a boy, that's what it was. And that's what homes need. That standard of tradition. So again, in terms of relationship, it's always the parent's job to communicate to the children what things are. And the reality is disingenuous. And it would be just downright irresponsible of me to have a son and stick with the social norms that I know are just factually inaccurate. That would be disingenuous and very irresponsible of me as a father, to teach my daughters the social norms opposed to the reality, to have a Bible-based home only if it doesn't conflict with the social norms. These things, and when I look at our society, these things are just, they're very disappointing. It's very disappointing. But again, when you're into this arena, you have no choice but to be exposed to these different scenarios, because again, they're everywhere, and they just simply unpack themselves. So